Thanks for joining us today at whatthechuck.net. Today's Excel tutorials will be delivered with the latest version of Office 365 as of the date of this video. Thank you and hope you enjoy.
Today we're going to be looking at 5 of the Excel functions related to count. There's count, count A, count blank, count if, and count ifs or count ifs. Depends on how you'd like to pronounce it. We're going to be looking at a similar data set that we've used in previous videos. This basically was something that I had set up when I was doing a video for pivot tables, but the data that's in here will work just fine, so we'll use that. So count, by definition, is a function designed to count the number of cells in a range that contain at least one number. Just like any other formula, you're going to start that formula with equal, and we're going to type the word count and an open parentheses. And for this example, we're going to count the total number of orders in our data set, and I selected column C, which is our order number, just based on the fact that I know if I have an order number, I have an order, and I'm going to hit the enter key. And that tells us that we have 18 orders. And if we look down at the bottom, that is correct. To take it another step further, count A is a function designed to count the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So we don't have any in this box or this column that's empty. So we're going to look at the PO. So maybe we've got some sales orders in the system, but we haven't received POs yet, so we don't want to include them in our number. So again, we'll go to this cell. We're going to type equal, count A, open parentheses, and we're going to select this data range, and we're going to press enter. So far, we've got 18 sales orders, and we have 16 purchase orders. Now, let's say, we have a very large data set. We're not really interested in counting the ones that we do have. We want to count the POs that we don't have. So for this example, we're going to use count blank. And we're going to count the same column, and we're going to press enter. And that tells us that we have 2, and we can very easily see that we only have 2 left. To kind of expand on this, you can use the count function to count multiple criteria ranges. So for example, in the count, we were counting column C. Well, this is probably a bad example for the real world, but maybe we wanted to count the cells that contain data in column D as well. So if we want to do that, we just arrow over to the end of the formula before the closed parentheses. We replace a comma. A comma is the separator for arguments in a formula. And let's go ahead and select that column. And now you'll see that it counted there's 34. And if we look down here, there's 34. You can do the same thing with count A and count blank, just in the event you have data in different places or in 2 or 3 or 4 different sets of data that you want to count. So moving on to COUNTIF. COUNTIF is a function that's designed to count the number of cells in a range that meet one specified criteria. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and type in our formula. The first thing it asks us is for our range. What do we want to count? So I'm going to take the trainer column, and we're going to say I want to count any cell in this column where the trainer's name is Jane Doe. So again, I'm going to put a comma for my separator now that I've selected my range, and I'm going to type an equal sign Jane Doe. Sorry, I didn't mean to have my caps lock key on there. And it tells us that we have 5. Now, one thing that we could do is we could replace this with Jane's name because I have the trainer names listed to the right. And as long as this table remains constant, you won't have to change that. If you wanted to put, maybe you wanted to have all 5 trainers' names shown with their totals beside them, and you could just use the cell reference. And that's a lot easier than have to type all those names over and over and over again. But you'll see that we come up with the same 5. So let's take that one step further. Let's say we want to count cells based on more than one criteria. Now to do that, I went ahead and pasted my product trainings offerings over here so that we can use that in our criteria, kind of the same way that I did the trainer and the status. But for this example, we're going to be using the COUNTIFs, and we're going to type in equals COUNTIFs. And the first thing it wants to know is what our criteria range is. So what are we going to be counting? We're going to be counting, just like before, the number of trainers, and we're going to insert our comma, our separator, and the criteria for that again is going to be Jane Doe. And then our next criteria is going to be column H, which is our products that we deliver. And then our criteria after our comma separator, we're going to look for analytics. And I'm going to close parentheses, and we're going to press enter. So you'll notice that in the results of our formula is that there were 2 trainings done by Jane Doe that were for analytics training, and we can check that by going up here. We see this one's Jane Doe. We see this one is Jane Doe, and the last one is Janet Jones. So that's 2, so that's correct. So basically, that's how the count functions work. Come back and visit the channel again. We should have some additional videos very soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's video from whatthechuck.net. If you did like it and you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification, and you'll get notified whenever we release new videos in the future. Thank you, guys.